Okay, so I wanted to talk today a little bit about the design process and what I've seen over the years, well, over the few years in which I've been doing this. So none of this is particularly factual, but this is just my observations in myself and what I've seen in other people and how they've sort of gone on. So yeah, this is mainly my opinion on how to sort of get through the difficult parts and potentially some of these more fuzzy, unknown areas that can be quite confusing or limiting. Like when you're first getting started, I know it was something that I always particularly was very unsure about, and that then comes onto the sort of design, when to freeze the design or certain aspects of the design, and what that means. Freeze, um, literally that there's no more work on it from that point on. It is how it is, and now anything else you design has to be built around that. So sometimes it's good. Well, all of the time it has to happen at some stage, but some things you want to freeze first, and some others, and some you need to be able to keep free a little bit to move until you find out more about what you actually need in order to make the best decision for your product. Um, so to get to this stage, you need to start, and that's actually one of the biggest problems I used to have, and it's definitely one of the biggest problems I see with people in lots of areas, but especially in product design because there are so many unknowns. You could go. There's an unlimited amount of combinations. If you think of it like a combination lock, that's got four. If it had four numbers on it, the amount of combinations you can get with that. Well, then think about a piece of design and the amount of decisions that you have to make, and then the amount of variables within those decisions. So you can see there's an unlimited amount of possibilities. So in order to get anywhere, you have to start and choose the most important things to go forward with. And to do that, first, the biggest thing is research. But you don't want to over research and use this as. I had a friend actually who did that in my last year of uni. He researched and researched and researched. That's hard to say, for months, and then actually when it came to presenting the product or the first concept of the product, there was nothing but research, and you don't want to do that either. That's bad. That's very bad because you with research you can find out things that you don't know. For example, if you don't know something, but there's something you don't know, for like a maths problem, it's quite simple. You don't know the answer, but you know the method, or you need to get a certain answer, so you know the question to ask. Then it's very easy. Well, within reason, the answer will flow. Um, but what you can't find out is the things that you don't know, and that only happens with um, being in the process and actually doing the design and figuring out all the different aspects along there. So you have to start, and best way to start, just just do it. Don't care. Just best way to start for me was actually always pretend that it's a draft. Just think, oh, I'll just do this, and it's just a draft, because I had like a problem with it always trying to be really good, and everyone has this. Well, a lot of people have this problem at the start where they don't want to show people their work because they're worried about getting criticised. I wasn't so worried about that, but it was more like from um, from my point that maybe I was worried about that. I'm not really sure what it was, but anyway, it seemed to work for me. If I just go, okay, this is a draft, I can always redo it. And what I like to do is then do it on a single sheet of paper. It helps rather than in a book. Um, and I make, when I do CAD files, make iterative CAD files, so that I've got all my previous versions saved if I need to go back when I'm making big changes, and that kind of thing. So where am I? To maybe most important, best advice. So yeah, another big problem before we get to the sort of design freezes and changes is, yeah, like I was saying, chasing this sort of perfection, which is a fallacy anyway, because perfection is always moving. It's a moving goalpost. It's like a fishing rod, a long fishing rod in front of you, and you're always trying to run after whatever's on the end of it. You can't get it, because with every step you take, you're actually improving the product. New technology comes out. There's better ways to manufacture things, and so it's impossible to ever make anything perfect. And the best thing to do is aim for perfection and settle for 80%. Now, a lot of people will say otherwise, but no, like in my opinion, that's really the only way you can do it. Perfection isn't real, but if you aim for it, you're going to get within reason, and 80%, as Pareto's law, 80-20, is going to be, you're going to get a really good quality product, but without spending a ridiculous amount of time trying to get there, and then worst case scenario, actually never shipping the product, never selling it, and you end up being one of those people who are just always working on something that never bears any fruit. I don't know what the actual expression is, but yeah, you get the idea. So yeah, that's perfection is an excuse, and people use it as an insecurity type thing. So for example, with my product, so now it comes into more these when to freeze the design changes. So if we go back to when I was making the first model of the underwater jetpack, you can see it in the background there. Okay. Well, this is not all of it. That's the front of the product. You can see there. It looks pretty cool, I still think. That was all 3D printed, and so what I had to do in order to print it in time, because I think it was about 250 hours of print time. That's not including the CAD time, which was longer, and working out how to use the printer, and then finishing time. So in order to get the product done on time for the hand-in, that's where you have to have some design freezes. So what I had very early on froze was, right, what I needed was the propulsion system, how big the batteries are going to be, and mainly all the electronics and hardware, and that kind of stuff. And then, you know, for me, this is the way I do it. Then you know the shell that has to go in. Now things can always change a little bit and move, but that seemed to be the easiest way to make this product as quick as possible. So that was done back in December, and then coming forward, I think there was some work on a harness. Yeah, that was right. In January, did a lot of stuff on the harness, and then I was CADing the product. I think there were 3 major re-CADs of the product. Took a long time, but anyway, then I was getting short for time, so what I had to do was start freezing some of the parts so they could be printed, right? So this is the complicated part in which I did it. I actually had to, for example, this was designed, frozen, printed, whilst I was designing all the other parts, and then I had to make those parts fit to that. So if something wasn't quite right, which it wasn't, I would have to make it fit to that and just suck it up, really, and know that the product is not going to be as good as you would like it to be. But you work into these time frames, and pushing yourself to reach these time frames is a really important thing anyway. Otherwise, I know if I didn't have those, it would never get done. So, for example, as I'm doing all of this, I know full well that the intake system on this is not the most efficient. The hydrodynamic like drag over the whole product is quite high. The way the batteries clip in and out was not very well resolved. What else? The charging system wasn't figured out properly. There was loads and loads of not errors, but things that I knew were wrong, but I couldn't change because I didn't have enough time. But you had to have something made anyway. So yeah, the point is, sometimes it's about shipping the product. You can't be chasing the perfection. You have to ship, and then you can take those, write them all down, and improve it on the next one, which is exactly what I'm doing with the one at the moment. The second prototype is going to be made soon. That'll have some testing to show any things that we need to improve before we can then go on to production, which is going to be cool. So, where are I? Aim for, no, inefficient. I've got things written down again because I wanted to cover them, and usually I miss them if I don't write them down. Yeah, that's it. So, the best advice I can give, or the best advice I got somewhere, I think I read it somewhere anyway, is that you just got to move forward and course correct along the way. Nothing's ever that big of a problem, but if you course correct it early, it's going to cause like a massive change. So just keep moving forward and course correct it along the way, and then you'll find out these things that you didn't know you didn't know. So now you have the new questions to ask, and you can get those new answers from it, and then update the design accordingly. Sometimes those are going to have to wait until the next model, but that's just how it is. It has to be done, and then you can go from there. I think that's pretty much it. If there's anything else, any other more specific questions, let me know in the comments. If not, well, I hope you enjoyed, and hopefully in the future, as I've had a little bit more experience, I might be able to articulate it a little bit better and come at you, or give you, poor grammar, give you some better information or some better advice on how to get over some of these little problems and issues, and just the way you go about the design process to make it a quicker, more effective, and more fun thing to do. Done.